All right, folks, yesterday, joint session of Congress. President Trump gives his first speech to the Congress. Speech lasted more than an hour. Of course, he tried to strike a tone of unity. That was the focus of his speech. Well, some folks said that was the case. Others said it was not. Here is some of what he had to say.
As we mark the conclusion of our celebration of Black History Month, we are reminded of our nation's path toward civil rights and the work that still remains to be done. I am here tonight to deliver a message of unity and strength, and it is a message deeply delivered from my heart. A new chapter of American greatness is now beginning. A new national pride is sweeping across our nation, and a new surge of optimism is placing impossible dreams firmly within our grasp. We are one people with one destiny. We all bleed the same blood. We all salute the same great American flag. And we all are made by the same God. When we fulfill this vision, when we celebrate our 250 years of glorious freedom, we will look back on tonight as when this new chapter of American greatness began. The time for small thinking is over. The time for trivial fights is behind us.
This is the same person who has led many of those trivial fights, such as attacking the media. He also described the America he inherited from President Barack Obama as dismal, in economic ruins, on the verge of collapse.
We must honestly acknowledge the circumstances we inherited. 94 million Americans are out of the labor force. Over 43 million people are now living in poverty, and over 43 million Americans are on food stamps. More than 1 in 5 people in their prime working years are not working. We have the worst financial recovery in 65 years. In the last 8 years, the past administration has put on more new debt than nearly all of the other presidents combined. We've lost more than 1/4 of our manufacturing jobs since NAFTA was approved, and we've lost 60,000 factories since China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. Our trade deficit in goods with the world last year was nearly $800 billion. And overseas, we have inherited a series of tragic foreign policy disasters. Solving these and so many other pressing problems will require us to work past the differences of party.
And, of course, President Trump went after the Affordable Care Act, which, not surprisingly, got a lot of applause from the Republican side of the chamber and silence from Democrats.
Tonight, I am also calling on this Congress to repeal and replace Obamacare with reforms that expand choice, increase access, lower costs, and at the same time provide better health care. Mandating every American to buy government-approved health insurance was never the right solution for our country. The way to make health insurance available to everyone is to lower the cost of health insurance, and that is what we are going to do.
About the only unifying moment of his speech last night was when he introduced the widow of Navy SEAL Ryan Owens, who was killed in a Special Forces raid in Yemen in January. That brought everyone to their feet.
We are blessed to be joined tonight by Corinne Owens, the widow of U.S. Navy Special Operator, Senior Chief William Ryan Owens. Ryan died as he lived, a warrior and a hero, battling against terrorism and securing our nation. I just spoke to our great General Mattis just now, who reconfirmed that, and I quote, "Ryan was a part of a highly successful raid that generated large amounts of vital intelligence that will lead to many more victories in the future against our enemy. Ryan's legacy is etched into eternity." Thank you. Thank you.
This is even though yesterday on Fox News, Trump blamed the generals for his death, and the father of that military officer is blaming Trump for his lack of preparation. Let's break it down with our three members of the Congressional Black Caucus: Congresswoman Yvette Clarke of New York, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty of Ohio. Folks, he began his speech yesterday, Ode to Black History Month, talking about civil rights and how much more we have to deal with. Yet this also happened on the day after his Department of Justice made it clear they're not going to go after Texas for discriminatory motive for the Texas voter ID law. And so I'm sitting there listening to that. I'm like, okay, that sounds cute, but what you're actually doing is far different than what you just said in your speech.
Absolutely. We have seen a president who has no problem with being duplicitous. And so it's very difficult to get a read on exactly what he will do and where he's coming from. We follow his actions, and his actions have been very hostile to the black community.
Congresswoman Beatty, a number of women yesterday were wearing white in the speech because of the women's suffrage movement. Many said that was a very effective silent protest, him having to see that number of women wearing white.
We were very pleased with the number of Democratic women who sat with us in solidarity. We think we sent a strong message as you watched it on national TV and watched him. I think we were sending a message beyond just wearing the white. We were sending a message that we are standing together, and we're going to hold him accountable because, as you said and Representative Clarke said, he had a lot of sound bites, but no actions. And the Congressional Black Caucus is about having strategic plans, we're about action, and we're about delivering. And we will not be silent during his administration. And that's the message we wanted to send.
Congressman Jeffries, what did you hear? Was there anything that you heard last night that you liked?
Not at all, because the whole speech was smoke and mirrors. It was a charade, and it's totally inconsistent with his actions. He can talk about unity, but this is the same individual who for 5 years perpetrated the racist lie that Barack Obama was not born in the United States of America. And we've got a whole host of activities that he's engaged in throughout his life that has been hostile to the African American community. And as you just pointed out, Roland, on the same day where he stood before the Congress and the nation talking about civil rights, in the previous few days, we've seen hostile action after hostile action from his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, in terms of not wanting to intervene in the Texas voter ID case as it relates to lifting up private prisons, which adversely impact African Americans, and a whole host of other actions that the Justice Department has taken to move away from the legacy of Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch.
As I listened to the speech and I heard him talk about, he mentions the inner cities twice, mentioned Chicago, Detroit, and Baltimore. But for me, there was nothing behind that. Absolutely. It's like, okay, you mentioned it, but that was it. So I heard no urban renewal plan. I heard nothing dealing with that. They were just sort of just left there.
He's fluff, no substance. I mean, we've seen this time and time again, and his rhetoric is so divisive that, you know, we anticipate that there'll be hostility in our communities. He says things with disdain, and it's very clear that he has no urban agenda. He's had 5 weeks now to present something to the American people, and he's failed to do so.
Congresswoman, when what jumped out is when I heard him speak about this whole idea of respect for law enforcement, but that was nothing challenging law enforcement when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to bad shootings, things along those lines. It is as if his attitude is, oh, I'm going to praise law enforcement, and I don't really care about what's actually happening out there. He talked about the victims of folks who have been the victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants, but said nothing about the individuals who have been victims of police abuse.
Absolutely. He spouted a lot of numbers. He mentioned the number of killings in Chicago, for example, but there was no plan. He talked about improving communities, and he talked about people not having acceptable wages. We've been pushing for increasing the minimum wage. No plan. We've been talking about reforming the criminal justice system. No plan. We've been talking about a health care plan. No plan. And yet, he played to his base. And then he excited fear in the audience by telling them about the crimes. He gave you just a little bit, like you do with a child. I'm going to take you to Disney World. And so the child keeps waiting and keep waiting, but their behavior is on hold because they're waiting for it to come. And here's what we want to let people know. It's not coming. He doesn't have a plan on any of the areas that he talked about. And that's unacceptable to us. But it's sending a strong message that we're going to send to our Republican colleagues. You notice that they stood a lot, but they also sat down on some of the big issues because they have a better understanding than this president that they have to deliver.
Congressman Jeffries, as I'm driving in this morning, I'm listening to various stations. I mean, it amazes me listening to mainstream media. Oh, his tone was so different, and he was acting presidential, and hopefully this is going to be the new tone that we hear. We saw through the campaign that tone lasts about 24 hours.
Absolutely.
It is back to tweeting.
You know, he's a reality show host masquerading as President of the United States of America, and he came to Congress yesterday to put on a Hollywood-style production to pretend to act presidential for the moment, but based on his history, not just as a candidate, but over the 70 years of the life that he's lived, that was all a charade, and there's no real likelihood that he's going to proceed and behave in a responsible fashion moving forward.
Congresswoman Clark, yesterday in our meeting he had with the network anchors, he said that he thinks it's time for an immigration bill as long as there's compromise on both sides, and suggesting that obviously from his side, he thinks that it will resonate with them. You have a significant number of immigrants in your congressional district. Your thoughts about that?
It's so funny, you know, he speaks out of both sides of his mouth. And he came before Congress and mentioned nothing of that yesterday. And it's really unfortunate because there are so many families that are in fear right now because of his dragnet style enforcement that is taking place. So we're going to push back. It's time for comprehensive immigration reform. And it's unfortunate that we don't have a president that knows how to lead.
Before I let you go, Congresswoman Beatty, I want to get your thoughts on the HBCU executive order. You have several in your state of Ohio. Your thoughts on what he signed, had the presidents come in, took a photo. They met with Vice President Pence, his team, Bannon, Rice, Priebus, and the rest of them. Your thoughts on that executive order?
I'm a graduate of a HBCU school, and so I think one of the things he wanted to do was to be able to say that he met with them and that he courted him. But what we didn't see was increasing budgets. We didn't see, he could have talked about the land grant with them. He could have made a commitment to dollars. You know, when you think about the rich history and him opening with Black History Month, he did absolutely nothing other than hold a meeting. Now, I think it was great that the presidents went there. I am hoping that they hold him accountable in doing more than just having a meeting. Was it a plus that he put it under his office, under the White House? Absolutely, because it gives the Congressional Black Caucus and Democrats something to use to go after him to make sure that he puts an economic development plan for Black colleges together.
And real quick, Congressman Jeffries, about 20 seconds, that statement from Betsy DeVos, oh my God.
Well, she clearly is unqualified, has no idea about educating anyone in this country, particularly people of color and those vulnerable. And so we're going to continue to see outrageous things coming from the Department of Education.
All right, folks, we surely appreciate it. Thanks so much.
A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. His hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not gonna let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.